They say, don't judge a book by its cover, but the only love at first sight that I have ever known has been with books. Night Film was sitting on the new release table. As soon as I walked in, I knew this was going to be something I loved. I bought it that day and slid it into its place on my shelves, where it sat and waited for its turn in my hands. 2 years since its release, I finally picked it up and gave it the time it deserved. The beauty of Night Film is that it seems to be both speeding past and endless. I felt as if I was running through this book, and yet there were still 300 pages left. It starts, slow building, and by the end, you wonder whether those pages really did move from right to left, or if some of them simply disappeared into the ether. It's the story of a girl and her father. Ashley Cordova dies in the first chapter of the book, an apparent suicide, and one hard-boiled reporter doesn't believe it. Now, Scott McGrath is our protagonist, but it is not his story that matters. He is the means to an end. The detective who unravels the mystery, ultimately, his fate is just an added bonus. All we care about is what happened to Ashley Cordova. The characters are a bit cliché, I will admit. We have our beaten-down investigative journalist, who has lost everything because of one mistake years ago when investigating one man, Stanislaus Cordova. You may have guessed that man just so happens to be Ashley's father, and the director of cult classic horror films that have a widespread underground community, who has been so deep underground for so long that people aren't even sure if he's real. McGrath meets a few young witnesses along the way, a boy who went to a summer camp with Ashley when they were young teenagers, a girl who checked Ashley's coat the night she died. They latch onto him and become his sidekicks. Quirky and lovable, they begin to soften his heart and sway his one-track mind. The story has appeared 1,000 times in 1,000 books. Like I said, this story is not his story, but Ashley's. I allow these few clichés for what is ultimately a masterfully constructed mystery. I'm not going to tell you what her story is, because it's something you must find for yourself. The story twists and turns, stacking the pieces so that it seems like they fit, but ultimately it isn't right until the end. And then you know. The book shows you the clues, so you aren't just hearing it secondhand. You feel like you are a part of this team, trying to figure out what went wrong and what happened. It was immensely satisfying and incredibly rewarding. If you are a lover of horror and thriller, then you should definitely pick this one up. Even if you aren't, it is beautiful and wonderful, and may just be one of my favorite books of the year, despite being one of the first few that I read.